Okay, good evening. 1 second. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Tanya class. We are now holding at the end of chapter 23. We're on page 97 in your Tanya. It's on the bottom of the right column. I want to mention that tonight is the 10th of Shvat, the 10th day of the Hebrew month of Shvat, and that is a very, very significant day, a holy day, the day that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away 73 years ago. And on the same day, it's also when the Rebbe, our Rebbe, became the Rebbe and the leader of the Chabad movement and changed the world as a result. So it's a very powerful day, a holy day, a day of connection. And so we're almost at the end of chapter 23. So we'll conclude it. And then we'll talk about the significance of today. We'll show you a little video, 9-10 minute video, and then we'll say L'chaim, and we'll bring a little bit, we'll learn a little bit of the opening discourse that the Rebbe said, was connected to this day. So we have a wonderful evening ahead of us. So again, we're on page 97. On the bottom of the right column, it begins with the words, "From this, the intelligent man." And up to this point in the chapter, the Alter Rebbe discussed the greatness and awesomeness of the powerful connection and unity and oneness that takes place when a Jew learns Torah. Even more than when he does a mitzvah. Mitzvah is the mitzvahs are considered God's organs, but the Torah is God Himself. And when a Yid learns Torah, his mind and his soul and his energy and all of that's learning the Torah are literally one with Hashem. And the mouth and the body that's learning the Torah is like a chariot to God. It's a total oneness and a real unity with God. Now, when you understand this, and there was a lengthy discussion in this chapter, we went over it a few times. And the result of this is, as he says now, from this, the intelligent man will be able to draw a sense of great awe as he occupies himself with the Torah. This should inspire a tremendous awe for Hashem, knowing how close and one you are with this great infinite light of Hashem. You're literally submerged within Him. Considering how His soul and its garments in the brain and mouth are truly merged in perfect unity with the supreme will and light of the blessed Ein Sof, the infinite God, which are manifest in them, which are manifest in the Torah and manifest in this person, compared with which all the world, this infinite light, all the world, the supernal and nether, are truly as naught, compared to this infinite light of Hashem that one becomes completely one with when he learns Torah. Compared to the worlds, that light, the worlds are naught compared to that light. Read that again, which are manifest. I'm going to read from the beginning of that paragraph again. From this, the intelligent man will be able to draw a sense of great awe as he occupies himself with the Torah, considering how his soul and its garments in the brain and mouth are truly merged in perfect unity with the supreme will and light of the blessed Ein Sof, the blessed infinite God, which are manifest in them. This light of Hashem, this Ein Sof, this infinite Hashem is one with you, are manifest in your brain and your soul when you learn Torah, compared with this light, compared with which all the worlds, supernal and other, the higher and the lower, are truly as naught and as a non-entity and nullity. So much so that the divine light is not actually clothed in them. In the world, this light is not clothed in them. It's too much. The world is nothing. It can't even... The world, this light of Hashem, this Ein Sof, is so beyond the worlds that it's too lofty, too infinite, to be able to even enclose itself in the world. And as so much so that the divine light is not actually clothed in them, in these worlds, in the spiritual, even the highest spiritual world, but merely surrounds all the worlds in a form of encirclement. It encompasses the world. It's too lofty and too infinite for it to be enclosed and become literally enmeshed with the worlds, even the highest spiritual worlds. So how does these worlds get life from Hashem? It has to get it from the infinite. It only gets it from it encompasses the world. It surrounds and circles the worlds, because it's too beyond the worlds to be enclosed internally in the worlds, as it were, in order to provide their essential source of life. It encircles them because they have to get their life from Hashem. So they have to get it from Hashem. But how do they get it? Hashem doesn't enclose himself. That infinite light doesn't enclose himself in the world, become literally manifest in the world. It encircles it so that it can receive some life, as it were, in order to provide their essential source of life. Only some glow, a very contracted, very minute, lowered and diluted light, some glow which they can bear is clothed in them, in order that they should not revert to naught altogether. So he keeps them going. So he contracts his light, so a tiny glimmer of him is enclosed in these worlds, that they shouldn't go back to nothingness. But when you learn Torah, that infinite light, that absolute one, is that unity, Hashem himself, is manifest in you, enclosed in you, one with you. When you know this should give you pause. This should give you a sense of awe, an incredible sense of awe. This is the meaning of the verse. And God commanded us to do all these statutes. Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people that God commanded us to do all the mitzvahs in order to fear God. Now, this seems like an interesting verse. It seems, what comes first? You have to fear God to do mitzvahs, no? What's going to make you do mitzvahs? The fear of God. First you have to fear of God. Then that will inspire you to do the mitzvah. Over here in the verse, it seems the opposite. That the whole Torah was given to us in order to fear God. It's the very opposite of what we usually say, that you need fear of God to start learning Torah, to do mitzvahs. So, which one is it? See, it says like this: regarding this great fear, it was said, so the answer is, this verse is referring to the great fear that comes as a result of learning Torah. Because what happens when you learn Torah and you contemplate the reality, what's happening at that moment, that you and Hashem literally become one, this infinite light, that the whole world, no part of the world can ever receive it. It may be in an encircling way, but it's totally beyond, and the whole world on naught and no compared to that light. That becomes manifest in you, and you're one with it. You're submerged in that light and close to it. That gives you tremendous awe of Hashem. So that's a sophisticated awe that comes from learning Torah and doing the mitzvahs. So that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is talking about, the greater level of awe. There's a simple level of awe that you need in order to even be inspired to do mitzvahs. You first have to fear Hashem, and then you're going to put on tefillin, then you're going to do what you have to do. If you don't fear Hashem, maybe you won't even do the mitzvahs. So you need a fear of Hashem, a basic fear of Hashem, a lower level of fear to get you, to inspire you to do the mitzvahs. But once you learn Torah and to do the mitzvahs, you reach a whole new level of fear, of awe, which is what we're talking about over here. So that's what he's saying of it. This is the meaning of the verse. And God commanded us to do all these statutes in order to fear God. Regarding this great fear, it was said, where there is no wisdom, there is no fear. The Mishnah says something very interesting. Im ein yira, ein chochma. Im ein chochma, ein yira. If there's no fear, there's no wisdom, no Torah. If there's no Torah, there's no fear. So which one is it? What comes first and what comes second? And the answer is that we're talking about two types of fear. The first fear, the basic fear, is that when the Mishnah says, if there's no fear, there's no Torah. But the higher level awe that we're talking about here is that's what the Mishnah means when it says, if there's no Torah, there's no fear, because you needed to learn to get to that fear. It was regarding this great fear was said, where there is no wisdom, there is no fear. And in relation to the Torah is called a gateway to the dwelling. A gateway to the dwelling means a gateway to this fear. The Torah is the gateway to this fear, as is explained elsewhere. However, he says, not every mind can sustain such fear. It's a sophisticated, elevated level of awe before Hashem. You have to have deep contemplation and to really experience this oneness with Hashem that we're describing over here. So not everyone can sustain such fear. Yet even he, whose mind cannot bear such fear at all, whether in whole or in part, because of the inferiority of his soul's level and in its root and source in the lower gradations of the 10 spheres of the world of Asiya. You remember when we said in chapter 2 that all the souls come from Chochmah Vatzilus, the highest level. But then in the evolution, the devolution of the worlds and the lowering, the neshamas go through this whole process of evolution, and it's greatly affected by the process. So it's very possible that the neshamas of the people around today are from the lower levels of the lower world of Asiya. And maybe that's why we're not capable of such lofty fear. Because our neshamas don't come from a high level. In other words, it all comes from Chochmah Batzilus. But then it becomes lowered, it travels down into this world, and as it travels, it becomes very much affected, just like we gave the example of a pregnancy of a child. It all comes from the father's brain, that the initial drop, and then it metamorphosizes. And then after 9 months, you have toenails. Does the toenail come from the father's brain also? It does. But it's a toenail. It was greatly affected in the 9 months. The brain of the child was not so greatly affected. It's on a higher level, right? So the same thing over here. A Rebbe, a Moshe Rabbeinu, that's the nechach. His neshama was not affected at all by the drop, by the lowering into this physical world, which they live in this physical world. These great tzaddikim. So there, in the perspective of Atzilus, but you and me, it was a great descent. And because of that, when we talk about our neshama may be from the lower levels of the lower world. And that is why we're not sophisticated enough to experience such an awe and have that deep feeling and experience of what he's describing over here. So it is happening, but we don't consciously experience it. That's what he's saying over here. However, not every mind can sustain such fear. Yet even he whose mind cannot bear such fear at all, whether in whole or in part, because of the inferiority of his soul's level, in its root and source in the lower gradations of the 10 spheres of the world of Asiya, it's in the lower parts of the world of Asiya, which is the lowest world. Nevertheless, a lack of such fear is no obstacle to performance, as will be explained later. Nevertheless, you could do the mitzvahs, and you could learn Torah, and what the Rebbe over here means also is that in addition, it also means that it doesn't mean that unity with Hashem is not happening. It absolutely is that. In reality, in action, the unity is happening. When you learn Torah, you're one with Hashem. That closeness to the Ein Ein Sof, to the infinite light of Hashem is real. It's just that your soul is not at the level where it can really experience it, and which would lead it to experience this incredible, awesome unity and therefore fear. That concludes chapter 23. Finally, it was a long chapter and we spent a considerable amount of time on it. And we're going to move on next week to chapter 24. Why not this week? We're only at 5 to 8. So I want to share with you, we find ourselves tonight in a very special day in the Jewish calendar. It's Yud Shvat, the 10th day of Shvat. And Yud Shvat is the day of the passing of the previous Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, great tzaddik, a lion of a Jew. He was a tremendous tzaddik. He passed away in Brooklyn, New York, on on the Shabbos morning on the 10th day of Shvat in 1950. And a year later, exactly on his first anniversary of his passing, our Rebbe officially accepted the mantle of leadership for Lubavitch, for Chabad, and by extension, literally for the Jewish world. The story of the Rebbe is an incredible story. The story of the previous Rebbe is an incredible story. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to tell you a little bit about this day, and then we'll learn a little section of, I'll describe in a minute, and then we'll watch a video as well. The Rebbe, when the previous Rebbe passed away in 1950, was a broken man. His name was Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson. And he was the father-in-law of the Rebbe. The Rebbe was his son-in-law. Our Rebbe was his son-in-law. And as soon as he passed away, the Chassidim looked to his son-in-law, his younger son-in-law, our Rebbe, to take over and become the Rebbe. Now the Rebbe himself was a very much of an introvert. You know what that means? An introvert. He did not like to be in the public eye. In fact, he concealed, he hid his greatness. He would dress like a businessman. He didn't dress like a the traditional. He had a beard, obviously, but he would wear a gray suit and a gray hat. He was not looking to make, but he was such a holy person and such a servant of God. But for a long time, he was away from the court. He wasn't near the previous Rebbe. So, for example, he got married in 1928 in Warsaw. He got married in Warsaw, and as soon as he got married, like a few weeks later, just a week or two later, he left to Berlin, to live in Berlin. And he checked himself into a university over there to learn, to study. And he was there for 4 years, till 1933. So you can imagine that the Rebbe was away from everyone. No one even knew who he was. He would come back to visit the previous Rebbe for the holidays, for this, that. But he was very, he tried to hide, disguise his greatness. I will just share with you that during that time, we have letters that his father wrote to him. And he's complaining to him that his wife, this is in other words, our Rebbe's wife, the young man's wife, the young Rabbi Tzanchaya Mushka, her name was. She was complaining to her father-in-law that the Rebbe fasts all the time. He's always fasting. And the Rebbe's father writes to him letters, why are you fasting? Where did you learn this from? This is not the way you should do it. Well, what are you... He would fast and fast and fast to cleanse his soul, to be on a higher level. While he was in Berlin, in the big world, in 1933, he went, the Nazis, when Hitler won the election in Germany, he left. He went to France, and he went to Sorbonne over there, to the University of France, of the Sorbonne. And that lasted till 1941. For 12 years, from 1928 till 1941, 13 years, he was away from everyone. What was he doing during that time? The same thing he was doing when he was a young man. He was learning Torah all day long, all day and all night. He'd spend some time in his studies, and quickly, he was a brilliant, genius mind. But his whole day and night was dedicated to Hashem. Then he comes to America in 1941. Over here, people already began to, he was right there in the court already. Now he's living in amongst everyone. So they already began to see that he's on a whole different level person. And as soon as the previous Rebbe passed away, they started asking him to please join, to take over the leadership. And I'll tell you how it went. In Lubavitch, in this, when a new Rebbe, there's something called Kitav Hitkashrut, which means a letter or a written note where you dedicate yourself to want to become connected to the Rebbe. It's like you're telling him, I'm your chassid, I want to be your chassid, I want to totally dedicate. Please become a Rebbe, we're ready to. Thousands of chassidim wrote this, and he rejected it all. He didn't want to have anything to. But as time went by, the first year ended, it became more and more obvious that if he doesn't do it, it's going to be a tremendous void. The Rebbetzin, Chaya Mushke, his wife, told him, if you don't take it on, what's going to happen with my father, your Rebbe's? He told him, your Rebbe. The Rebbe was the previous Rebbe was so dedicated to him, he considered him his Rebbe. So he said, what's going to happen with all his work? If you don't, there's no continuation. The Rebbe finally got convinced, and he let know that on the first yard site there's going to be a Farbrengen. Now, the previous Rebbe, before he passed away, he gave instructions to publish a Hasidic discourse that he wrote called Basi Legani. Ever heard of Basi Legani? He wrote this mimer, this discourse, and he gave it out right for the Shabbos of his passing. A day before his passing, he published it and released it. And he never had a chance to teach it, to say it. In this discourse, there are 20 chapters. Deep, deep, deep chapters. Very interesting discourse. What the Rebbe did was, for the next 20 years, on every Yud Shvat and every anniversary of his father-in-law's passing, he would take one chapter and elaborate a whole Hasidic discourse on that chapter. So the first year, he elaborated on the first chapter. And that night, by that Farbrengen, here's an interesting thing about our Rebbe. The Rebbe's came into this Farbrengen. The Farbrengen was in a room that's maybe the size of this room. That was the whole Lubavitch headquarters, this room. You were there, upstairs in 770, the shul, the little tiny shul. You were there too. It was a tiny little room. A few hundred people could fit in, if that. How many people can fit in here? 50 people. Comfortably 50 people, tops. There were 300-400 people that packed into that room. It was like, you were like sardines. They had a little table. Huh? Yeah. It was like that. They couldn't move. In 770 in Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn. Yeah, in Brooklyn, yeah. You were there? Yeah. So if you walked upstairs in the main floor and top, not that bad, downstairs is a big room, a big shul. I'm not talking about that. That was built later. In 1951, all you had was that little building up in the main building, and there was a little shul. No, across the street. Yes, we went there. Of course we went there. Sure. No, not the museum. Which museum?
The library, not the museum.
The library. Not the library. No, 770. We went upstairs in the Rebbe's room. Remember, we went to the Rebbe's room. We went to the. No, not his office. Right outside his office, he goes across the foyer, and the first room on the right, there's the big shul.
Oh yeah.
Big shul. Yeah. It's a room not bigger than this. I don't think it's. There were kids who were studying there. Exactly, tiny room.
Yeah, way smaller.
Smaller than this. Yeah. Smaller than this. That's where they had. Huh?
Hardly anyone goes in there.
Because it's tiny. There's not the main shul is downstairs now. Right. That's the room where the Farbrengen was. On the video, you'll see a little bit of it. And over there, the Rebbe speaking he gave a few talks about things, different things. And then there was one chassid got up on the table and said, Rebbe, because here's the thing. until the Rebbe says a maimer. A maimer is a Hasidic discourse, which is said in a different way, with a tune. You sing a song before it. It's a whole spiritual, high-level thing. And if a Rebbe doesn't do that, then it means he's not taking it on. So this Chassid got up and said, Rebbe, we want it. Your talks are great, but we want to hear Chassidus. We want to hear a discourse, a maimer, which would mean that that's a Rebbe. They finished singing, and the Rebbe began to say a maimer. And in this maimer, the Rebbe laid out the mission of this generation, of his leadership. That Farbrengen, the few talks and the maimer, the Rebbe laid out, spelled out what he plans to do. And it's quite fascinating what this maimer was about. I want to learn with you a few lines of the previous Rebbe's maimer, which the Rebbe's maimer is based on. So I made copies of it. With your permission, we'll learn just a few lines. I made a few pages, but we're not going to do all the pages. We're just going to learn the first page and a few lines of the second page. And I'll explain it. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about it, and we'll watch a video. You get a perspective. So it'll come full circle. Already have enough on that side.
I'll go back. These chairs are more comfortable.
The problem is you fall asleep in them. Especially with air conditioning.
Very nice. One more.
You need one more?
One more.
No, we have none. Yeah.
For Danny, he was late.
Okay. Let's read it. The following maimer. This was the maimer that the previous Rebbe published a day before, the days before he passed away. The following maimer comprising chapters 1 through 5. Later, all 20 chapters were published. Of the series of discourses with the general title of Basi Lagani, was released in advance for study on Shabbos Parshas Bo, Yud Shvat, the 10th of Shvat of 5710, which is 1950, in honor of the yahrzeit of the author's grandmother, the saintly Rebbetzin Rivke. That day was the yahrzeit of the previous Rebbe's grandmother. So he passed away that day also.
Say that again?
It was also the day that his grandmother passed away.
No kidding.
And he published a maimer in honor of her grandfather, his grandmother's yahrzeit. Here's the discourse. In the verse in Song of Songs says, I have come into my garden, my sister, my bride. This is a verse that God says, I have come to my garden. Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, the Midrash explains, is not to be taken at face value. It is a metaphor describing the ongoing relationship between God and his bride, the Jewish people. The above verse, for example, you see the whole Shir HaShirim is all about the love. It describes the love between a man and a woman. That's what Shir HaShirim is. You ever read it? Fascinating. But obviously that's not what it's about. To describe the love between a man and a woman, why would they have? It's all a metaphor for the love between God and the Jewish people. We're his wife, yeah?
No, just wondering if God has a wife.
We are his wife, the Jewish people. So he says, Shir HaShirim, the Midrash explains, is not to be taken at face value. It is a metaphor describing the ongoing relationship between God and his bride, the Jewish people. The above verse, for example, I've come to my garden, refers to the time of the construction of the sanctuary, the Beis HaMikdash, when the Shekhinah, the divine presence, came into his garden. It's considered like a garden. It's my place, For it was then that the divine presence, distant for a time, was again revealed in this world. So God says, I've come back to this world. Okay? When was this? When the Jewish people built the temple. And that became the home for God, where God's presence and his Ein Sof, his infinite light, was revealed, right? So the Hebrew word that means to my garden is now discussed. It says in the verse, I've come to my garden. So what's the Hebrew word in in the verse, legani. So he discusses it now. The Medrash Rabbah on the above verse observes that the word used is not legan, which would mean to the garden, but legani, which means to my garden. What's the difference? It's a nuance. What's the difference? Huh? And this implies lignuni, which means to my bridal chamber. It means basically what he's going to explain is that legani as opposed to legan would mean to the garden. Legani means to my garden. What's the difference? What's the nuance here?
And Hashem is talking about his garden.
His garden. What makes it his? He was once here before. Because he was already once here. That's what it makes it. That's what makes it his. And that's what he's saying. That the Medrash Rabbah on the above verse observes that the word of use is not legan, which would mean to the garden, but legani, which means to my garden. And this implies lignuni, which means to my bridal chamber. For as the commentaries on the Medrash explain, this possessive form, legani, implies a private place, such as the chamber in which the spiritual union of groom and bride is consummated. The divine presence is thus saying, I have come into my bridal chamber, into the place in which my essence was originally revealed. In other words, when they built the Beit HaMikdash, the holy temple, Hashem says, I've come back to my garden. I've come back to my place. That's what he means. Finally, I'm drawn back into the world. Okay. Next page. The Medrash continues. In the beginning, what does it mean he was once here before? So he explains. In the beginning, the essence of the Shekhinah, the essence of Hashem, was apparent, revealed in this lowly world. When God created the world, on that first day when man was created, Hashem was revealed in this world. There was no concealment. Pure. However, in the wake of the cosmic sin of the tree of knowledge, then Adam and Chava sinned. The Shekhinah departed from earth and rose into the heavens. Right? Chased Hashem away. And he went up to heaven. Later, on account of the sin of Canaan, then Cain and Abel, he killed his brother, right? And then Enosh began to worship idols. The Shekhinah withdrew even further from this world, rising from the nearest heaven to the second, and then to the third. Later yet, the sins of the generation of the deluge, the flood, caused it to recede from the third heaven to the fourth, and so on. This progressive recession of the revealed divine presence is alluded to. So in other words, what he's saying is there were sins one after the other, that with every sin they pushed God to a higher world, to a higher heaven. And there are 7 heavens. So the sin of the tree of knowledge, the first sin, pushed him from earth to the first heaven.
That's where the 7th heaven comes from.
Right. The second sin, Cain, pushed him from the first heaven to the second. The third sin pushed him to the third. The fourth sin to the fourth, all the way to the 7th. And this progressive recession of the reveal, and every time he's pushed higher, his revelation in this world is less and less. So it says this progressive recession of the revealed divine presence is alluded to in the wording of the verse that relates to Adam and Eve. What happened? It says when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, they heard, this is what it says, they heard the sound of God walking about in the garden. That's what it says over there. They heard the sound of God walking about in the garden, because they were in the Garden of Eden. Rabbi Abba notes, the great Rabbi Abba notes, the verse does not use the expected form of the verb mahalach, but rather mishalech with an extra suf, which suggests that they heard the divine presence springing back in successive stages of withdrawal. He was jumping, mishalech. He was springing back. He was being forced higher and higher and higher. And that's what happened. As a result of the sins, Hashem's presence was removed to the first heaven, then to the second, all the way up to the 7th generation. The 7th sin pushed him all the way to the 7th heaven, far away from us. Okay?
When did Adam grow his orla in that process?
I yes? The Medrash proceeds to explain that after the sins of the 7 generations had caused the divine presence to withdraw 7 spiritual levels from its initial manifestation in this world, then 7 tzaddikim arose. 7 tzaddikim, holy people, arose whose divine service drew the divine presence down once more into this world below. Then came 7 great tzaddikim, and they began to reverse the process, to bring him back down. Through the merit of Avraham, the first of these tzaddikim, the Shekhinah was brought down from the 7th heaven to the 6th heaven. Through the merit of Yitzchak, the Shekhinah was brought down from the 6th heaven to the 5th, and so on, until Moshe, the 7th of these tzaddikim, and all those who are the 7th are cherished. The number 7, those that are 7th are cherished, so they have their special. He drew the revelation of the Shekhinah down once again into this world below. Avraham brought it from heaven 7 to heaven 6. Yitzchak from heaven 6 to heaven 5. Yaakov to 4. Moshe, Joseph, Levi to 3. Kahas to 2. Levi, Amram to 1. And Moshe, the 7th, he was cherished. He's special. What makes him special? Because he's the 7th. And he was the one that brought him back down to earth. Where do you see that he brought him back down to earth? In the Beis HaMikdash. It was Moshe that built the Beit HaMikdash, the first one. And that became the home for God. Yeah, but it was, but not only did he speak to him, tabernacle, right, yeah.
Not the actual temple.
No, tabernacle, that's the same thing.
That's not the first temple.
That's not the first temple we talk about,
Right,
no.
okay.
First temple is built in Jerusalem. The 2 temples we talk about is on the Temple Mount already.
Right.
But the first one to build a temple was Moshe. It was a tabernacle. It was a temporary one.
What level is God now?
Where is he now?
What level?
We'll see in a minute.
And
We'll see soon. We'll see soon. Divinity was primarily revealed in the Beis HaMikdash. As it is written, God said to Moshe, and they shall make me a sanctuary, the temple, and I will dwell within them. That is the place where God dwells. Where is he to be found? In the temple? Significantly, the last Hebrew word of the verse is not as expected, b'seichai, which would mean within it. I will dwell within it. Build me a temple and I will dwell within it. But rather b'teichem, which means within them, even though there's only one temple. Why would it say in them? For God craves a dwelling place within each individual Jew. Okay, I'm not going to read any further in this. I'm going to now explain orally what's going on. The Rebbe went on, this is the previous Rebbe's Maimon. The Rebbe delivered a discourse 72 years ago this day. And he drew upon these words. And he said that just like the previous Rebbe said, that the 7 generation that moved the Shekhinah away, and then came 7 tzaddikim and brought the Shekhinah back. This thing happened once again. After Moshe Rabbeinu brought the Shekhinah back down to earth, what did the Jewish people do 40 days later? They sinned with a golden calf. And that started the process of recession again, of chasing God away from the world. Then came 7 new tzaddikim, and that's what the Rebbe said with the advent of Chassidus. This is what the Mashiach told Baal Shem Tov, that this is it. The Chassidus is going to bring God down to earth once and for all. 7 generations of Rebbes that revealed Chassidus, that revealed the teachings of Chassidus. They brought the Shekhinah all the way back down. The Rebbe said in this discourse, in this little fabrengen with 200-300 people there, that we are the 7th generation, just like Moshe brought down the Shekhinah to earth. That is what we are going to do.
But not the 7th Rebbe.
He's the 7th Rebbe. The Rebbe was the 7th Rebbe.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
He said we're the 7th generation from the Alter Rebbe. And he said we are going to bring the Shekhinah back down. How? We're bringing Mashiach. That's it. Nothing less than bringing Mashiach. And the Rebbe cried by this fabrengen. The Rebbe cried, you can hear him, he was not just crying. He was wailing. He was literally wailing, and it's on tape. If you want, I can put it on and you'll hear it. And it may be in the video that we're going to be hearing now. Maybe not. But I'll put it on for you if you just want to hear how emotional the Rebbe was. Because he knew. And he said, I don't want you to think that you found someone that's going to do the work for you. They wanted him to be their Rebbe. Don't put any feiglich in bosom, he said. Don't put any birds in your bosom, and that way you're going to fly, right? That way you can put the bird in your bosom and you'll fly with the bird. It's not going to happen. I'll help you, he said. But you got to do the work that you have to do yourself. That's what Hasidus Chabad demands. A Rebbe, rely on the Rebbe to that which you cannot do, but that which you could do, he's not doing for you. You have to do, and he said, I'm going to be there for you. And boy, was the Rebbe there for us. For 42 years, 44 years. The Rebbe didn't stop for a second this dedication to the men, women, and children of the Jewish people, whoever they were. I will share with you a statistic. I believe, I'm pretty sure about this, that there was never a human being, and I wrote an article about this last year, there was never a human being that was so available to the Jewish people from the day that God created the world till today. There was never someone that made himself available to the Jewish people and to everyone else like the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Listen to these statistics. The Rebbe, from 1951, from that night till 1981, 30 years, he had a custom that he would receive people for a private audience a couple of times a week. First 3 times a week, then 2 times a week. I can't tell you how many people went through the Rebbe's, this thing, for 30 years. When that became impossible because there were just too many people, it went all night. It started at 8 o'clock at night, and sometimes it finished at 7 o'clock in the morning. If you read the little leaflet that we put out every Shabbos, My Story, that leaflet, My Story, a lot of people talk about their private audience with the Rebbe, and they say, we were told to come at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we finally went in at 5. All the time. When that was impossible, he started in 1986. He said, I'll stand at my door every Sunday, and anyone that wants to come by and talk to me can come by for a quick encounter. And he gave everyone $1 to give to charity. Those Sundays went on for 6 years till he fell ill. From 1986 to 1992. 6 years, 300 Sundays, on average. 5,000 people walked by on an average Sunday. Do the math. How much is 300 times 5,000?
1.5 million.
1.5 million. Could you imagine 1.5 just in 6 years? Now, some of the people came again and again. It's not different people, but he's available. He had 1.5 million personal encounters in 6 years. That's just 6 years. I believe that I've met personal encounters with over 2 million people. It's over 2 million personal encounters. I don't believe there's such a phenomenon ever in the history of the humankind, that someone should have made himself at this level of availability, and actually people. This is person to person. This is not someone that's talking at a rally to 5,000 people. That you can have a lot of people. I'm talking personal encounters. This has never happened. It's a phenomenon that doesn't exist in the whole history of the Jewish people. The Rebbe's dedication was legendary. His holiness was legendary. He was a miracle worker. He was a man of divine inspiration. He was a wholly different person, a totally different kind of person. And the Rebbe said at that Farbrengen, The job that we were given as the seventh generation is just like Moshe Rabbeinu, but this time we're doing it forever. This time we're bringing Mashiach. You have to remember the people that were in that room were Holocaust survivors, survivors from Stalin. They were looking to come to a new world. They finally made it to America. And, they'll rest a little bit. They'll just live life, right? And here the Rebbe is laying out a vision that was so grandiose. The Rebbe told someone in the 40s that he wants to have, that eventually Lubavitch has to have a presence in every single city around the world. In 1940s, the Rebbe told this to someone. Could you imagine that? To think in those terms like that in 1940, it's like, but with determination and with dedication and with self-sacrifice, the Rebbe literally set up to do that, to make the whole world one with Hashem and bring Mashiach.
Rabbi, in order for Mashiach to come to be, what level does God have to be?
No, we're going to bring down Hashem from the last. This is the last frontier. We're there. This is it. We're there.
And why are we saying that we're in Messianic times right now?
Because we're in the seventh generation. This is it. The leader of our time told us that we are now in this Messianic era. This is the time when Mashiach is coming. The signs, all the signs that the Talmud gives for Mashiach's coming have long passed already. And the Rebbe explained it based on this discourse and based on this medrash. And we're it. That's it. And we're doing it.
What level God is right now?
The first once removed from.
Right. And already, Hashem is already very much revealed in our world, but we're still missing the ultimate. We have to bring it down. We need Mashiach to come and make it revealed to all. We don't see it. We don't see it. That's true.
We have to have like big events happen like this. Be,
Like
I
what?
haven't seen that.
You haven't seen what?
Like, bring it down one level. There was 7 Saturdays, right?
Yeah.
Do we have those nowadays?
No, there were 7 generations. The Alter Rebbe was the first, and then it was, for the last 200 years, these 7 generations represented those 7 steps till
So
the.
would you say he's at the lower level?
He's right before our level. That's what the advantage of the 7th generation is, that Moshe Rabbeinu, which sin was the worst of all sins?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying from the first 7.
Oh, eating.
The eating, why? Because that's the one that removed God from our world to the heaven. The fact that he went from heaven 1 to 2 is already not as significant for us. And therefore, on the way back down of the Shekhinah, which is the most significant person of the 7 Tzaddikim? Moshe Rabbeinu. He brought him back. When Avram brought him from heaven 7 to heaven 6, it's not as significant as bringing him from heaven 1 down to earth. This is where we are. This is the greatest significance. So the last 7 generations of Hasidus did incredible. But what this generation, and that's what the Rebbe said in the Maimon, that was his inaugural address, right?
Is bringing Mashiach something that we have to?
We have to do it, this generation. That's our mission, to bring it back down to earth from the first heaven. This is.
The Torah says that the Mashiach is something that's going to happen.
It says in many places in the Torah. It says it in many places. And now with your permission, I want to show you a short video. And if you want afterwards, we can talk about it and I'll explain it. Okay, so I'm going to close this video now. Anyone that was watching, thank you. And have a wonderful day, a wonderful night.
It's true that in the Torah says that